Hey everybody, this is Brian Goulet of the Goulet Pen Company and InkNouveau.com. You may notice a little change in scenery here. I'm up at my in-laws right now. We're doing a little family visiting, and while I have some downtime, I thought I'd throw a quick review together for you. This is Noodler's Red. This is one of our colors that we used in the October ink drop, so I wanted to kind of check it out and see what it was all about for you. Really good color, and I'll go ahead and give you a quick tour. So here you have Noodler's Red. Now this is one of the standard Noodler's colors. It's not one of their Eternal or Eel or Polar or anything like that. It's just a standard Noodler's color. It's a good solid red. They come in 3-ounce bottles. List price is somewhere around $12, and at least as of right now. And pretty good economical ink for the amount that you get. The pen that I like to test it in is my Pelikan M800 with a 1.5mm metallic nib. Now, the first paper that I tested it on here, it was a Rhodia dot pad. It's 80-gram paper, really fountain pen friendly stuff. Relatively smooth in terms of most papers. The ink is actually not as saturated as a lot of the Noodler's colors kind of have a reputation as being. This is a very red color. It's probably turning up a little bit yellow on the video, but I can't do much about that because of my lighting situation. But anyway, this kind of gives you an idea of how it writes. Flows really well, no problem stopping or starting or anything like that. This color is not incredibly saturated, so it does allow for some pretty decent shading, especially with this italic nib. Finer pens probably won't have as much shading, but with this fat pen, yeah, it definitely does. The next paper that I like to... let me show you real quick. The back of the paper, no bleed through, no feathering, anything like that. Pretty long dry time. Not incredibly long, but it's on the long side, especially with these really ink-resistant papers. This is a Covetous Habana. Really good performance on this paper as well. Similar to the Rhodia, but the shading shows up a little bit better on this paper. This is 90-gram paper. Really smooth and you know, really nice solid red color. Very similar to Sheaffer Skrip Red. Sheaffer Skrip Red might be a little bit brighter. This is a little on the darker side. Oh, I forgot to do the back of it again. Okay, so no feathering, no bleed through of any kind. So really good performance there. Next, my Rhodia dot pad. Sorry, not dot pad, Web notebook. You can see here, there's my review of Syrah that I just did the other day. And I got Noodler's right below it. So it's definitely much brighter, redder color than Syrah. But, you know, you can see it here. And generally speaking, I prefer red inks on off-white paper, but not so much with this color. I can't explain exactly why. It's just a personal preference thing from my end. But I actually kind of prefer this particular color, the Noodler's Red, on white paper instead of off-white. Shading is not quite as noticeable here, which I've kind of found as a trend with the off-white paper, that it kind of mutes some of the shading a little bit as opposed to the white paper, and this is no exception in this case. The one cool thing about this ink is that most inks tend to change color a lot as they dry from when they're first wet, either get lighter or darker. This one actually stays pretty true as you write with it. In the back there, you know, no bleed through of any kind. This is 90-gram paper as well. Lastly here, I've got the Mollusk ruled notebook. Similar type of journal format here. This has thinner paper though, it's 72-gram. Definitely had some feathering issues with this, as was to be expected with, let me try and really get in there so you can see there's some feathering. You get like these little striations in there. It's just something weird that happens with these Moleskine notebooks from time to time. Their consistency is not the best. They source out their paper, and so it tends to be kind of spotty. But anyway, it's a much more absorbent paper, so that's why I like to do this test with it, because I know a lot of you like to use Moleskines out there, so I'm trying to find you some good inks that do work well on Moleskines. This one, you know, it's kind of like hit or miss. It seems like on certain parts of the page it's better than others, but there's definitely these weird striation things that happen, like right there, and it just it doesn't look so great. But anyway, a lot of the shading is muted on this as well, not just because of the off-white, which is a factor, but also because of the absorbency. The more absorbent the paper, the more it soaks it in and kind of spreads it out. It doesn't allow the ink to really pool up like it needs to get that really good shading. And then on the back of the page, you know, I definitely have some bleed through going on there. Bleed through, if you don't know what that is, it's basically when the ink comes through to the back side of the page. So like right here where it's dark like that, that's the ink actually coming all the way through the paper. That's called bleed through. But anyway, so that's that. And then lastly, I did a water test. Now a lot of the Noodler's colors are either called Eternal or Polar or whatever, and they're water resistant. The standard line is not necessarily that way. This is the drip test that I did. I just dripped some drops of water on there, and you can see it really kind of change the color of the ink there. And this is a faucet test. I ran it under a faucet for 10 seconds, which actually the faucet looks better than the drip, but the drip I left on there for a couple of minutes. The faucet I only did for 10 seconds, so that might be part of why. But anyway, it's not a particularly water resistant ink, but it's still a really nice color all around. And then the last thing I wanted to show you here was I have some swabs of some different colors. Now the color is not going to be entirely accurate on this video just because of the nature of the video and how the film records and all that stuff, but I can at least show you some comparisons of ink colors here. So you've got the Sheaffer Red. Okay, there's Noodler's and Sheaffer. They're very, very close to each other. Sheaffer is just a little bit lighter, but they're very close. Noodler's has just a hint of a purple color to it. Sheaffer is kind of commonly known in the fountain pen world as one of the truest reds out there, but the Noodler's red is very, very close. The Jeroboam Rouge Opera, which is the red that I found closest in the Jeroboam family to the Noodler's, has a lot more of a pink color to it, but it's still pretty close, except it's not quite as saturated, so you're going to get some more shading with the Jeroboam. The one that I found that I think was probably the closest color to the Noodler's red is Diamine Ruby. Very, very, very close in color. Ruby may just be a hint more saturated. I think the color is pretty much spot on, but you can see here that when I laid down a little bit more, it looked a little bit darker, a little more opaque. So, you know, I think in certain pens it could look a little different, but in certain other pens it would look exactly the same. And then Diamine Classic Red is also very close, maybe just a little bit lighter in color, but still very close to the Noodler's Red. So that's it for my review of Noodler's Red. Hope you enjoyed it. Nice solid color. I recommend it if you like a nice bright red. If you have any questions or comments, email me at brian@gouletpens.com. That's all for now, and write on.